Okay, you gotta help me out here. Where does this go?
You all got quiet so fast. We understood the, oh look, I can see myself, how fun. All right, perfect. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into the Schaumburg Library. My name is Chris Corrigan. I'm your Adult Programs Coordinator here at the library, and I'm so excited to be continuing our speaker series with the League of Women Voters of the Palatine, Barrington, Schaumburg Areas. A long title now, but I've got it memorized. Before I turn things over to the League and our wonderful panelists, just a few friendly Zoom reminders for our online audience and in-person reminders for our in-person audience. We'll start in person. If you have any questions for our panelists as we're going along, just throw your hands high in the air. One of our League representatives will run over with a note card and a pen for you to just jot down your questions. That way we can keep everything more organized, make sure we're not repeating questions. And if there is a question that is getting a lot of that is being asked often by our in-person and online audiences, that they make sure they hit those up. If you need a restroom, in-person audience, you can find those located straight out the nearest door here under the exit sign. Ladies is going to be immediately on the left. A little further down that wall will be the gentlemen's, and there's a water fountain in between, but we also do have some refreshments in the back, some water and regular and decaf coffee if you need it. For our at-home audience, I hope you know where your beverages and restrooms are there. But you would hope. But if you have any questions at all, you can submit those using the Q&A feature on your Zoom toolbar. The Q&A is live here so that our moderator will be able to see them as they pop up and be able to make sure that those are getting fed in as well as we go with the session. For our online audience, you'll also see that closed captions have been enabled. You can turn those on or off as you wish. If you're having any technical difficulties during the program, this program is being live streamed to the Schaumburg Library YouTube account, and you can go over there. That's kind of my duct tape fix for anything that's happening, but if you're still having difficulties, don't hesitate. You can go back and forth with me using the Q&A function as well, and I'll do my best to solve whatever issue you may have. I have taken up far too much of everybody's time already, so I'm gonna get the road on the show, as they say, and pass things over to one of my partners with the League of Women Voters, Chris Jesse.
Good evening, and thank you for joining the League of Women Voters in the Schaumburg Library at this Civic Awareness Series. I'm Chris Jesse. I am the 2025-26 co-president for our chapter. I'd like to provide you with a little bit of information about the League. We are a political, nonpartisan organization whose mission is to increase voter engagement and defend democracy. We welcome the energy of all ages and genders to join us in supporting voter education and to advocate for issues important to our community. If you're interested in learning more, you can go to the back table. We have some representatives from our membership committee there, or we will have the website available in the chat. And so I'm going to pass this on to Kathy Kleva, and she will start our session. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to our CAS series on how to run for office and why it's important. Got good audio here, I suppose? Okay, great, got the thumbs up. We're thrilled to have with us tonight our panelists who have all run for office, held office, that are going to be talking with us about some of the things that they experienced, some of their thoughts about it, and why it's important. So we talk a lot about, what's happening at the national level, but it all starts locally. So I'm looking forward to having some conversation about that and give you some tips to get you started doing that. So, brief agenda before we go into that. Welcome, that's going to take up 10 minutes. Panel discussion, we'll have some time for questions, and then we do have a little time scheduled at the end where our panelists have agreed to stay with us and answer any questions that haven't been answered yet. So we're thrilled today. I'm just going to do a brief overview on introductions, and then they will be able to give you more information. Marg Dewar, is that, Marg, raise your hand. There you go. Marg is in the far right side, past Palatine Village clerk. Maria Gallo is not with us at the moment. Emily Gilbert, next to me, board president of the Schaumburg Township District Library, and in the middle, Anna Klimkowitz, the former board director and member of the Township High School District 211. So thank you, ladies, for being here. We're glad you're here. Let me back up. Here are just some of the things we're going to talk about, and this is going to be I know it sounds weird with speakers and microphones and all this, so this is going to be hopefully an informal conversation where they can talk about their experiences. We'll be covering their personal experiences running for office, some practical steps that they might have to get people started on their journey of running for office, a little bit about representation, barriers, and inclusion in the electoral process, some civic engagement, and then what advice do they have for you if you're interested in doing that. So with that, we're going to get started. So I was talking to them before just a little bit about personal experience. I'd like them to provide you a more detailed introduction of themselves, the offices they've run for and have held, and their personal experience, what their inspiration was to run for office, biggest challenge, and how did you face it? And then how is holding office different from what you expected? I just realized all the talking points are behind you. I apologize that you have to do that. It's not something you necessarily have to go through each one. If you need, I apologize for if you need to turn around and take a look at that and speak to those points. And let's start with Marg this time. Start?
Yes. That's right. Oops, do we just leave this laying down, or do we?
Hold the microphone with the packets to lay down.
Yes, I ran for office 36 years ago, but it actually started before that. I joined the League of Women Voters to get to know more thinking people in the community, and that was one of the very easy ways to do it. And as I joined, they were saying, well, we're going to have observer corps. And this observer corps would be people who would be observing different, it could be school board, library board, village council, township, all the different boards that exist. So I raised my hand. I thought I could do that. And I live a block and a half away from Village Hall. So I can go over on a Monday night and observe a meeting. And what happens is you get hooked because some item comes up before the council and it's not going to be decided till next week. So you need to go back to next week to see what happened and who's thinking what. And that got me started, and I observed for 6 years. At that time, Rita Mullins happened to be the village clerk, and she was thinking about running for mayor. And she thought, Marg, you're an English, you can write. Why don't you run for village clerk? You can write the minutes. And I thought, well, I could do that. So I did run. Somebody was starting to run also, but they dropped out. So I did not have any opposition. And for 9 consecutive terms, I didn't have opposition. I didn't know, as an English teacher, is it because they just don't want to write? That's probably part of it. But other reasons would be they wanted to have a vote, and the village clerk does not have a vote. Neither does the mayor, except in the time of a tie. So it's kind of interesting to know those little details.
All right. Well, good evening. My name is Anna Klemkowitz, and I am a former board member with Township High School District 211, and I had the opportunity of serving as the board president for the last 4 years. It was just an amazing experience. I'm going to go kind of a little bit backwards here. That was my most current, was the election on the school board for basically 27 years, and that went by so quickly. Every time I thought, I need to step off, there was something else that was happening. It was, in most cases, the hiring of a superintendent, and to me, that's always been the most important thing that a school district can do. So I stayed on for this hiring of superintendents and for our strategic plan. But looking back, a lot of my volunteer activities started with Blackwell School PTA, and I was the fun fair chairman. I mean, what better event could you be part of? So working on the fun fair and volunteering there, being involved with the PTA, another absolutely wonderful experience of doing that. Had an opportunity to serve as an officer in the PTA and the PTA Council. Girl Scouts. another wonderful organization, an opportunity to meet so many wonderful people and working with the kids. Also being involved in the Cub Scouts and the Boy Scouts. I really enjoyed working with people and meeting people. I did work over at Schaumburg Township back in 1992, which seems like, forever back. And I worked in the senior department and then in the general assistance department. And that was really my first exposure to politics. And that was quite interesting. People running for office, as Mark had, talked about the attending meetings and things of that nature and learning about the people. So that was really my first exposure. And then in speaking with the Schaumburg Township trustees, we talked about the kids, what my kids are going through at school, what we're looking forward to. And one of them had suggested, maybe you need to run for the school board. And that seed was planted. And that's where I decided, this is what I would like to do. So that was my start into the politics of running for the District 211 school board.
All right. Thank you. Hi, I'm Emily Gibbert. I am so the impetus for me running was I had recently had my daughter, and she was pretty little at the time, and I kind of started reevaluating what I thought of myself as a person within a community, and community became a lot more important to me once I had my daughter. And I had always kind of thought of myself as not a joiner, and then I realized that is silly because you need other people to survive. So I started thinking about how I could get more involved in my community. And I'm a librarian at UIC, and I was at a library conference, and I went to a panel on running for office, not even thinking that I would ever do it, just being like, well, that sounds cute. I'll go and listen to that. And it totally changed my idea on it. It was the first time I had ever raised my hand at a conference presentation and asked a question, because I'm kind of a recovering shy person. And I think the biggest challenge was that I'm an introvert, and I wasn't like the thought of going up to people and telling them who I was and why I wanted to run seemed really terrifying to me. But I really think every person who's an introvert should run for office, because I think you'll really find out what you're made of when you run for office, because you do have to put yourself out there and get more comfortable with that. And I think that's a good thing. And I know a lot of introverts are uncomfortable with that, myself included, but I think it's good to have that experience. So, and I'm really glad I did. I ran in 2019. I lost by a couple hundred votes, and then I ran again in 2021 and won, and I just got reelected. It was uncontested. That was a nice gift. So that was a nice, easy win. But that's how I came to be here.
I'm going to add to this, because one of the questions was, how is holding office different from what you expected? Being on the PTA, I was so used to, you have a group of people together, we take a look at what the concern is, what the issue is, and we act. Well, being on a board, like on the school board, there is a process, and you need to learn the rules, and you need to learn about the legislation, and you need to learn what you can do and what you can't do. And then sometimes you need to make sure that the attorneys review it, so you don't get yourself in trouble. But that was the most different and difficult thing is suddenly you have to, wait a second, we have a goal or a direction we want to go in, but we need to stop and we need to take a look a little bit more and explore all of the options and all of the possibilities. So things take a little bit longer than what I hoped for, but eventually kind of learned how to do that.
One other comment I just wrote down, attend meetings. And again, through the league, I was an observer. And I don't know that right now they're working hard to get that observer corps going again. But even if you're not an observer, you just live in town, go to a meeting. The interesting thing is very few people attend meetings. So when you arrive at a meeting and you just quietly come and sit down like you did this evening, the board is going, who's that man? Who's that man? What's he here for? Is he going to complain about something? I don't know. I don't know who he is. And so there's this whispering going on because they wonder who you are, why you're there, and what are you going to complain about. So if you have a compliment, that's a real shocker. But please go to a meeting, just a meeting. It's not a scary thing, and maybe you'll scare the council, but but you'll get involved and you'll get an idea of what goes on and how they operate and how they think things through.
We have a good number of people attending District 211 meetings. We had a number of major issues over the years where at one point we had a meeting with, well over 300 people in attendance, which was interesting and challenging, and it's community. So that was really important of the board listening to as many people as we could. But we do have people that come to the meetings, which is really good. And there is a section for public comments. So it's very important for us as any board member of being able to listen to the public. We don't respond at that time because you don't have that information. You don't want to get into a debate, and that's just not, good practice. But we listen to the individual, what they have to say, and at times, in our case with the high school district, maybe direct the superintendent to find out what information that person needs, and also to report to the board and keep us informed about that particular topic. But we do get a good number of people, and we also recognize our students who participate in the different competitions, the merit scholars, just a variety of things, the orchestra, things of that nature, so some of the competitions. And that's really gratifying, is to have our young people come before us, and it just makes you feel really good because this is our future. And our kids here in District 211, 54 in this area, phenomenal young people, just phenomenal.
Thank you. I don't want to cut you off, Emily.
Sorry, no.
I was just going to tag on to one of the things that you'd mentioned when you talk about what your biggest challenge was or what barriers you had. You talked about personality types, which is brilliant. I mean, it was an interesting fact, and I was just wondering if there were any other challenges or barriers that either of the others of you came to mind.
Yes. As you mentioned, the personalities, sometimes people come on the board and get elected and they have an agenda. And you have 7 people, and it's really important that whoever serves as the board president allows each person to speak and then tries to come up with consensus. But there are times where you might have somebody that's extremely difficult. And unfortunately, that's happened. And if you have an individual who is rather difficult, it's really up to the board president to be able to contact them and talk with them and try to come to some type of consensus as we move forward as a board. We can debate and we can talk about things at the board table, but when you take that vote, it's the majority. And that's one of the things that I know that I had stressed. That's what we need to support. You can disagree at the table, and we bring our opinions and our thoughts there. But then once that vote is taken, depending on how it goes, that's the position we need to take of supporting it, because that is what we're looking at as far as being in the best interest of our students.
All right, thank you. Mark, anything to add on that?
Good. I really don't. As clerk, I don't have as clerk, a clerk does not have the vote, as I mentioned, and neither does the mayor, except in time of a tie. And some councils are going to have a lot of discussion. I know when I first started, some of the meetings went until after midnight. A lot of talk that went among the council members. Then other councils don't. They know what they're doing. They have been well prepared. And they don't have a lot of discussion. They explain it to the public briefly, and the meeting can be over in 26 minutes. So every board is different.
Yeah, some of our meetings had gone past midnight, and again, depending on the individuals, and sometimes, as I said, it was a little bit challenging. But I think it's really important that you're at the board table. That's where that communication has to be. Whether we agree or disagree, it has to be at the table, because that's what people see. They need to be able to hear the sides, because 7 people serving on the board, we're bringing our experiences and the connections we have in our community, we're bringing them to the table, and all of that needs to be heard.
All right, thank you. We're going to move on to practical steps of running for office. So this isn't intended to be a full workshop of fill out this form and all the other stuff that you have to do, but kind of an overview of what are maybe the first 3 or 5 steps somebody might take. How do you build a campaign team or funding? And who did you partner with for those? And then we talked just a little bit about uncontested races, because that may be a slightly different process, although you still have to go through probably the same procedures. So Emily, do you want to start with that?
Sure, I'd love to. So I think the first step you should take is, if you have a seat in mind that you're interested in going to, start going to the meetings right away. I went to meetings for a year before I ran for the first time, and then I just kept going until I ran the second time. So I was going to meetings regularly for 3 years before I got on the board. And it was immensely helpful to know what the issues were, what was going on at the library. And, you know, the library was incredibly supportive of, and they knew that I had run, and they would give me the board packet too, just so I could, I could go pick it up and follow along in the meeting, and it was really helpful. Another thing that I think is really important is shoring up support, because running for office is, even in a smaller role, like in local government, it is stressful, and it does require a lot of your time. And so for me, being a parent of a small child, I'm very indebted to my mom, who watched my kid a lot while I was out canvassing or doing lit drops with my husbands. Or with husband singular. Did I say plural husbands? Anyway, okay, husband singular. Anyway, so yeah, that's really, really important. As far as building a team, I pretty much did it myself. I had, I didn't have anyone like officially on my campaign. It was, mostly me like checking all the boxes, but I did have a ton of support, like I mentioned, with my mom and, my husband and my friends. And then also I got a lot of support from the local Democrats who found out I was running the first time. So one of the former trustees of the library found out I was running from my like social media marketing or something, and he met with me, and when he found out that we had a lot of shared values, he got me involved with the Democrats, and they were immensely helpful. Now, because it's a nonpartisan race, they didn't give me any monetary support, which is important, but they did give me a lot of advice and a lot of walk sheets, which is really helpful, because if you're not familiar, a walk sheet is what you take around to go canvass or do lit drops. so you know what houses you can hit that are going to have the most impact, so you don't just stop at every house and knock on every door, because some of those people aren't even registered to vote. So you know that you're going to the houses where the people turn up for local elections, and that was incredibly helpful.
I think I was fortunate with, that first election of having the Schaumburg Township, and that was the Republican Party that was in office at that time. And they helped going through some of that paperwork. How do you fill all those things out? How many signatures do you need? Just all of that information, it's just kind of overwhelming. And then having to put all your package together and having it in order, because if you don't have it correct, you could be thrown off the ballot. That was always interesting. And one of the things for the school board, you need 50 signatures to get onto the ballot. My philosophy was you've got to have, get a couple of hundred, because you want people to know who you are and what you're running for. So the way I know I approached it was I asked friends, I asked some of my colleagues, I asked, people from the Scouts, people that I knew, would you get some signatures for me? Would you get the petition signed? And I was very, very fortunate they were able to do that. So if each sheet had 10 signatures or 15 signatures, and I had 10 friends, this was great. It was a good number of signatures coming in. One of the things that I learned over the years in regards to politics, people may challenge the petitions. They're going to challenge whether someone is a registered voter, whether they live in the area. And sometimes those names get thrown off of the petition. So that's why it's really important, in the case of the school board, you need to have a lot more than just 50 signatures. And my philosophy was the more people that know who you are, hopefully they will come out and vote for you. And that was really important. I'm not sure how many elections I've run, but I know with the exception of one, there has always been a contested race. We only had one that was uncontested, and that was like a real blessing. But they've been contested, and I think that's a good thing for the community, because then we have groups like the League of Women Voters has a forum, the newspapers, they do some questionnaires, and I think it's very important that the community know what's the reason the person is running, what their goals are, what they're looking to accomplish. So I think that's just great to be able to do that. And then that was how I kind of built my team, was, asking them to help with the signatures. And as far as partnering, I know at first I did have some help with the Republicans. They helped pass out some of my literature, but I didn't get funding from them. I set up a budget. I talked with my husband, and we came up with how much, we can spend, printed my own literature, went to the different forums. The PTAs used to have the forum also. And, that was how you got your name out. So I tried to keep it as reasonable as possible with, myself working, my husband working, and then having 3 kids. So that's what I did.
There is a document that you can download online called the Candidate's Guide, and it is a guide for any one of the boards that you may be wanting to run for or even consider. You get that from the State Board of Election, and it has everything you need to know about running for the library board, the school board, any village council. The thing is, each village is different. Schaumburg, I believe all of your trustees or councilmen are at large. In Palatine, we have districts. Am I right, they're at large?
Yes.
I think so. In Palatine, we have districts, and so that's different. And there are many different forms of village government or city government or whatever the title is that a community goes by. So this document is about this thick. It's a lot to print off. However, the clerk's office manages the elections for the village, and you have somebody in your office.
No, they changed that. They changed that. We have to go to a location and drop off the paperwork at a different spot. It's now longer through the district.
Okay, well, still in the village, it comes to the village clerk's office, but the clerk cannot give out any information. If I gave information to one person, I would have to be sure that every single person considering running would have that same information. So we give out no information. If you bring your packet in with your petitions, we say, is this the way you want to hand it in? And you say yes. So oftentimes it will say in that candidate's guide, consult your attorney. And I don't know that every attorney is aware of all the ins and outs of running for office, but what the other two have mentioned is going to the League of Women Voters, going to a political party, other people who have run, other candidates on the board would be able to help you, so.
I do have a question that came through online, if I could just add that to the conversation. And the question was, do you need to scrub all your personal social media before running for local races? Thank you, Kelly. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I asked that question in that when I said I asked my first ever question at a conference, that was actually what I asked. I said, what if I swear on Twitter? And they said, some things are worth swearing about. So like, it's not a bad idea, but also you're allowed to be a human. And it's probably a good idea, I think, to like look at what is publicly viewable about you and maybe consider taking your social media private if it isn't already. But also, like, you are allowed to be a person. If once you get on a board, if you do, then that's a different story with like, you know, what is appropriate to post on social media and what isn't. But yeah, those are my thoughts.
No, absolutely correct, Emily, because I know that I don't have a lot of social media, but you know, a lot of our younger people do. So I think that that's terrific, but you have to be cautious. And then if you're, in our case, if you're saying something about the school district, we need to make sure that it's factual in what you're presenting there. And just be very cautious about, you know, your opinions. And again, it goes back to how did the board vote? Come across very well if the board supported one thing, but then you're critical in regards to that particular topic. So, and everyone has a right to their opinion, but, you know, just they have to be cautious in regards to that social media because it could be very frightening.
Mark, anything to add? No?
I use social media to wish you happy birthday, and that's about as far as I go. I do not express opinions.
All right, let's move on to representation. And the talking points here are what impact have you made in your role that you're most proud of? And how do you ensure you represent all constituents, including those with different views? Who would like to start on that?
I guess I can because I'm holding the mic. Okay. I am most proud of the small, tiny role I had in the renovation of the second floor of this library. I'm sure you saw on the way in. It's really beautiful. I'm really proud of that. As far as impact, I think I've also heard that other librarians were like aware of me running and had followed my campaign, and one even told me that I inspired her to run. I cried when she told me this. She's on a board now in Bartlett, I think. But anyway, it's so that is really wonderful. I also, yeah, I mean, as far as representing all constituents, like, a library is I don't think you have to be very political in the way that you run a library, because it's meant to be for everyone. So as long as, I think all the constituents want access to the library and want those resources and services. So luckily, we don't have like too many hot button issues that we have to deal with on the library board.
As far as the impact, I'm very proud of the last 4 years of having the opportunity of serving as board president. Each one of my board members brought something to the table. We've had engineers, we've got some teachers, we have some counselors. I'm also a licensed professional counselor. And I guess at times I would bring maybe the humanity to the table, or talking about mental health and a little bit more about, self-care and things of that nature. That some of our businessmen that were on the board maybe weren't quite aware of. So I think that's the beauty of a board, is when you've got the different people there and all of those characteristics and values that they bring is just amazing. One of the other things during these 4 years as board president, what I really tried to do was encourage our board members to be prepared for the meetings and to be able to speak at the table, and just being able to listen to concerns and to have a discussion, because to me, that's always been important of being able to do that. One of the things that I was really, really excited about accomplishing a number of years ago, about 5, 6 years ago, was we did a strategic plan. And that was a hard thing to get people to accept. But the strategic plan, I had a wonderful board that said, yeah, we need to be able to do this. Dr. Cates was our superintendent at the time. We started working on the strategic plan, so that could be a blueprint of how we're going forward. What's the education, the curriculum, the teaching, all of those types of things. What are we presenting to the kids? Physical and mental health for our kids. We did the strategic plan, and then with Dr. Small, our superintendent, who is retiring at the end of this month, we revisited, we explored, we enhanced, and we've developed another blueprint as we go forward. So I think those kind of things are really important, where board members have a real part in it. The other question here about ensuring that we represent everyone, we've gotten phone calls, gotten letters, and responded back to people. Whether I agree with them or not, it's the listening. And I think that's really vital. People need to be heard, no matter what. They need to be heard. They have, if they're taking the time to call a board member on any of us, they have something important to say, and it's worth listening. It may not go anywhere. It might just be a nice conversation. They might show up at the board meeting, express their concern, but I think that's really important. Some of the biggest things that we had for Township High School District 211 was our transgender and our locker rooms and things of that nature. And again, that's where we had 350 people in the audience, listened for, a couple of hours to people, but that was important. And it was difficult. It was truly, truly difficult as a board member. How do we meet the needs of our transgender students, our gay students, and how do we meet the needs of our cisgender students? So this was all important, and sometimes we didn't wrap up until, I don't know, it was like after 1 o'clock in the morning. It was one of those really late ones, but that was really important to be able to do that. So I can speak for our board. I know all of our board members, if they received a call from someone, I know that they talked to the person, and then part of our process is you let the board president know that you've talked to somebody, and you let the superintendent know, because you don't want to blindside someone. So that's really important.
You're absolutely right, and these hot topics will bring a big audience. Other times you can have no audience. Our park district in Palatine had a recent topic regarding the stables, and a lot of people turned out, more people than could fit into a council room. So those are the things that often bring people into a meeting. As far as being the clerk, my main purpose that I felt was to write clear, concise, accurate record of the business of the Village of Palatine. And unbiased, absolutely unbiased. I was in school back when the rule was not to use loaded or charged words, and I didn't do that. I see maybe journalists don't abide by those rules anymore. But another thing is knowing which village council member is saying something, but maybe it's not really important to be in the minutes of the council. Other times, somebody says something, they probably want that in the minutes for posterity. So it's making those judgment calls and including those. Another thing you mentioned, this strategic plan, and the Village of Palatine, if you've been following that, is just concluding the strategic plan, and you should be seeing some changes in the downtown area, the way we want our town to look. So with the school, it's a different strategic plan, but with even the library will have a strategic plan, planning out the next 5, 10, 20 years.
I'm going to keep moving, just to make sure we stay on time. I did have a question for the group here that kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, of the 3 to 5 steps and the paperwork involved in it. So I'm going to read you all 3 questions, and then I think the last one is maybe one to focus on. Why is the paperwork to run for office so finicky, right? This isn't up there. Is the election application process reviewed by village council or local office? And lastly, is there a balance between proper paperwork, record keeping, and accessibility for the novice to run for office? So how do you make somebody who's not been involved in this at all before, how do we make sure it's accessible for them? So I'm not sure. And maybe it's just focusing on the complexity of the paperwork and how somebody without knowledge of that is best.
Right. Go through it yourself first. Go get the candidate's guide, pour through the section that you are interested in, and then talk to people who are on that board, because they have gone through that process. Again, I don't know that an attorney is necessary, but it could be. Council members or board members can help. The League of Women Voters should be able to help. The political parties would be able to help. That's the best way I know to have that explained.
Yeah, I agree. And if you're the school board, it's nonpartisan. So you kind of need to be cautious, because one of the groups will probably say, well, we can't help you because you're a Democrat, or we can't help you because you're a Republican. And I've had that said to me. But I think if you approach someone and you just let them know that you're interested in serving and information, and you want to work for all people, can you help me? Can you take a look at this? Can you explain this to me a little bit? Because you need the statement of economic interest, and sometimes trying to secure that is difficult. And where do you go to get this? Putting all your papers together and making sure that they're numbered and making sure everything is signed. All of those things are really important, because I had said before, somebody may challenge it. if there's a number of people running for office, and even if there aren't a number of people, somebody can always challenge it. And sometimes that ends up in politics, because that's what it is. But I think, hopefully people know that it's the library board, the school board, it's nonpartisan.
And the village in Palatine is nonpartisan.
And nonpartisan, okay? So I think that's really important to remember that.
Yeah, I think the best advice would just be not to try and do it by yourself. When I was running the first time, I came to so many meetings that one of the board members invited me to meet with her and see, go over all of my paperwork with her, which was incredibly helpful. So, yeah, make sure that you're finding the help that you need.
So what I'm hearing, I think, is that the paperwork is complex and there's nothing to be done about that. But what I heard from all of you was getting people to help you that are currently in office or that are in government that may be able to help you with that. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, each page of signatures needs to have a signature on it as well. It needs to be notarized by a notary. It's difficult sometimes to find a notary because at the village, we're not going to notarize any documents for a candidate for the village. So you have to find a notary someplace else. If the bank will have a notary, or if you know a person who has their notary seal, they will do it. A village clerk from another village might be willing to do the signature.
You want to tell them what a notary is?
I've got one follow-up question. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that what the notary is doing is they're attesting that the person who circulated that petition is the person that actually circulated the petition. So that's what that notary is doing. So if you have, several different people circulating petitions, sometimes there might be a friend who's a notary. They'll come over to the house, and then your friends can come over and bring their sheets and sign it right in front of them. But that's what the notary is.
Okay, I just got a follow-up question also. Do you have to file with the Cook County Clerk's Office as a candidate?
No. No. As a candidate for this library board, you filed with the library business office.
All right, I'm drawing a blank where we filed. It was through the election board, and I don't remember where we had to go, but there was a location, and if everyone showed up before 8 a.m., those people who are in line, you would be drawing straws for your spot on the ballot. And previously, we used to be able to turn our petitions in at the district office, but that changed over the years, and now it's some different locations.
And we're in the office of the village clerk. But don't expect any answers because we can't give it.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to barriers and inclusion. And we've talked, I think, a little bit about some of this in previous conversations. What are the biggest barriers to running for office? We've talked about the challenges and what can be done to it. This is a good one. What can be done to encourage more women, people of color, and underrepresented groups to run?
Oh, yeah, there are a lot of barriers, especially if you're not a man and a straight white man. But yeah, they're like, I mean, when you think about all of the things that are typically done by women in a standard, like, heterosexual relationship, any time that you spend running for office is going to be taking away from those things. So you need help with that. And it's so important to be able to have people supporting you for that. I think the best thing you can do to encourage more people to run is to ask them. I saw a study saying that most women won't even consider it until they're asked to run for office. So, yeah, I regularly try to get my friends to run for office. They're good people, and boards need good people on them.
Yeah, exactly. You need to encourage people, and that's where you kind of need to reach out to people. Whether you're at the store or whether you're shopping someplace, sometimes, you stir up conversations with people. They ask what you're doing, you let them know. And you get some looks from them, and sometimes somebody says, that's really interesting. I want to find out a little bit more about it. I know when my kids were little, as far as we had like a play group, and you'd be talking with other moms, and, they talk about, issues with kids. Well, how can we make some changes in regards to it? How can we approach it? And maybe once you plant that seed, and I think as Emily had said, it's that communication, it's reaching out and talking to people. One of the things with, as far as people of color or underrepresented groups, we have to reach out, and that's important. Maybe attend some of the different events, some of the cultural events that are going on. I know there's some different organizations, whether it's a Hispanic organization or African American organization, show up. And be there and talk to people and let them know, what you're doing, whether it's the village, whether it's the school, whether it's the library that you represent, and that you want feedback from them. What would you like to see happening at the library? What would you like to see happening at the school district? What thoughts do you have? Maybe the municipalities. So we have to reach out. I think we have to, continue to work on that.
Interesting, when I was a teacher in your district, there was quite a bit of encouragement to all students to volunteer within the community. Some of them, as I recall early on, were even washing fire trucks. I mean, it was anything for them to have hours given to the community. And the thought was that would get into their blood, and they would continue on as they went into college and went beyond, or whatever they did in their life, they would contribute to the community. And I'm not sure that it's happening. I'm not seeing people running for office the way they should, the way I wish they would, or coming to meetings. And so I think we need to continue that program, but also really stress the idea that this is a lifelong thing, just like lifelong learning, lifelong contributing to your community. So that's my.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to, did we get everybody on that?
Yeah.
You did, okay. I'm going to jump to the last slide, and this could probably take a full hour, but we're about 8 minutes from the end, and I hate to rush through this, but we've talked a little bit about the importance of local office. So, we always think of what's going on nationally, but it's really happening here in our communities. So, in a nutshell, why is it important to run for office? What do you wish more people understood about local government? And if people aren't ready to run, what are other meaningful ways to get involved? Volunteering, I'm hearing. So I don't know if anybody wants to take a stab at that. And again, I apologize for this. We're kind of at the last 7 minutes of our. Okay.
I would encourage everyone in the community, the many communities that we're serving here, to attend a board meeting, any board meeting, township board meeting, school board meeting, any board meeting, just attend and be recognized or not, just be the quiet fly on the wall, that's fine. It's important to get out there, and maybe it will encourage you to think about running for office. So it's kind of the baby steps. So take those baby steps.
All right. There's things happening in politics now that I know I'm just one voice. I may not be able to change those things, but I know I can have a voice here in my community because this is where we're at. This is local. I really, really wish people would come out and vote. They need to vote in the local elections because here's where we make a change. Here's where, the education of our students, the curriculum, the mental health, everything else our facilities that we have. This is what impacts our local area and provides for our students, for the high school district when I speak of that. So I think that they just have to understand, you can make a change here. You can offer input. You could improve what's happening in the community. So I think that that's truly important. I don't want people to think that they have to join a party, because they don't. They just have to have a commitment to bettering their community and having that voice. If somebody's not ready to run, maybe they can help with a local election, whether it's for the school district, of helping pass out the flyers, helping put things together, helping do a mailing, any of those things, because that is a lot of work and there's a lot involved in it. But, and once people get involved, there's that energy that happens, and that energy is contagious. So I think that is absolutely terrific. So that's what I would do to encourage people.
I completely agree, and I think it's these are just people. They're people just like you, and if somebody is going to be making decisions, and if it's not going to be you, then who will it be? There are lots of great people in the community. It might be one of them. It might be a bad actor who is trying to take the board down from the inside. So, not to be dramatic, but anyway, so I do think it's important to first, like they said, like meeting first before you do anything, but even just making your voice heard at a board meeting is really important. And then if you can't run, if you're not ready to run, then I absolutely agree, get involved with someone who is running. Maybe even if you don't feel like you can go out and canvass or do lit drops, you can watch their kids. You can balance their books for them or something, There's something you can do for sure.
All right. Thank you very much. Anybody else? I'm going to end it with this, one of my favorite quotes. But it speaks to local government. Margaret Mead, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. So, ladies, I'd like to thank you for being with us tonight, Margaret.
Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you so much. I'm going to let Chris finish this out.
Yes, I want to thank everybody for attending here, and a reminder, I think everyone on the panel is going to stick around for a few minutes if you want to visit with them. And thank you for the people on the Zoom. Panelists, you just did a great job. I want to thank you for your service, first of all, for all your positions, and you definitely inspired, I bet, a lot of people out there to maybe think about running for an office, so I think that's wonderful. I want to just mention that we do the Civic Awareness Series, League of Women Voters in Schaumburg Library monthly. Our next one will be in July, and it is the balance of federal branches. So that would be interesting. It's with Professor Stephen Schwinn from the University of Illinois, Chicago. I believe it's July 22nd. And you can register now on the library's website, and I hope you'll consider coming to the next one, and maybe even consider getting involved with the League of Women Voters. We encourage voting and help people out with the education and voter registration. Chris, do you have anything else to say before we?
You're okay.
Okay, thank you very much.